Hey friends, my name is Megan and welcome to episode 76 of a Naughty Mess Knitting Podcast. Hi everyone, for those of you that may be new this January, I am Megan. I am mostly a knitter, but I also spin yarn and I crochet, which we'll see some of this week. I'm dabbling back in some cross stitch because I want to finish a project for my family. And otherwise, I'm just a fiber enthusiast. I live in the Pacific Northwest, just north of Seattle with my husband, Mike, our daughter, Theo, our dog, Winter, and my mom, Cindy. I make a lot of things for myself, but I also am doing a lot of gift knits and family knits this year, partly because I had a great year last year and I grew my hand knit wardrobe by a lot. And while that's very exciting, I don't want to run out of space too soon and I want to wear those objects, and I tend to get a little bit of shiny object syndrome, so I'll wear the things I just made. Yeah. So more things for other people this year than last year, just to slow myself down on my own pace a little bit. I was just like having some thoughts this morning about all of the things. First things first this week is my stripes. She's done. She's beautiful. I love her so much. Let's talk about it. So this is Stripes by Andrea Mowry. This pattern came out, I don't know, 2021 or 2. Like, it's not super new. She had a lot more circular yokes before I think she decided she likes that weird, like the Weekender panel thing, which is now all of her tops. No shade on Andrea Mowry. People love that. I haven't made any for myself that have that particular feature. Though I have some of her patterns that do. So I will probably dabble in those maybe this year or next year. We'll see how much I like it. But this one, I got this yarn specifically for this pattern. Several of the other gals in my knit group, Katie and Charlotte and Emily, all have a stripes, and I think actually if we took a picture all together, we're like cousins because everyone has kind of a green leaning top. I have 2 greens in mine. Charlotte's is all green. It's she got like a milled spun yarn, and that's like color changing, you know, not a spin cycle but similar. And then Katie and Emily used a advent that was like very similar colors to this, but like pastel versions of it and more colors because it was an advent. So like we could all be cousins in this. It's very cute. Maybe we'll take a picture together at some point in the distant future because we never remember to do things like that. But I'm really excited about it. So overall, I really like the fit. I'll stand up in a second, but I did get this yarn for this. This is all long dog merino sport. So it's a true sport weight. It's 328 for 100 grams. It's 100% superwash merino. My colors here are, we'll start with the very top. This is Mary, and then we've got the Light of Arendelle, Gimli, Legolas, Aragorn, Samwise, and then back to Mary. And I kept the same pattern throughout. I think this is such a freeing design because you could do this with an advent, and I don't even know how many stripes I actually use. Let's see here. I have 23 stripes throughout the body. I think that's the same for the sleeves minus 1. I have my body of this ends at Aragorn, so it's 1 more than this, which is interesting because I think if you did a cropped version, obviously you'd have longer arms than your body, and so like you could do it any way you want, but I think you could you could make this with all 24 of something for sure, as an advent. And I think yarn wise, you would be fine, even in these long parts here, because I did not use very much yarn. So I will talk about that in a second after I stand up and show you what it looks like on. And I will say this is a more fitted version. I'll go through the sizing and et cetera in a second too, so that it can stay up on the screen longer, but let's stand up and look at it. Okay, you can see some of my face this time. So here it is. I love it. I think it's so cute. I have black pants on, but it does end at Aragorn, the brown. And I did I think maybe 1 more row on the cuffs and the hem than maybe 2, maybe I did 10 rows so that they're about an inch, but maybe like a tiny bit longer with the bind off, which is fine. I think that's okay. I think you could make that even longer if you wanted, and that would be like a cute, you know, like end look. Even like this keeps the stripes pretty even, but you could do a little bit longer, and I think that would look nice as the ending. I did do the double, like the folded collar, and I really like how that sits. I think that the increases look pretty nice, pretty even. I'm not getting any weird bagginess, and I'll show you the back too because I'm not getting any there either. I think partly because I did, oh, you can see a wrinkle from where it was sitting on the couch. That's a wrinkle, not a weird bagginess. I think that's partly because I did do a more fitted size. So yeah, but I really don't have like any ease. Even if I pull my arms away, you can see that there's just like, there's a little bit of negative ease. I like where it's sitting. I did give myself a tiny bit extra length than what was recommended in the pattern, though she does say, obviously, try it on since it's stopped down and see if you can, you know, make it to your measurements kind of. But, and then we'll talk about, I did a mod on the sleeves just at the beginning. I just think it's so cute. These are not really me colors, and I think the yellow stands out so much to me just because I don't love yellow, but I think like doing the color order with Sam being the last one, so it's like the furthest from my face, was a good decision. I think all of these are pretty complementary, and so I mean it's definitely like more fall shades than I would typically wear, but I very much love it and I'm glad that I have it. I'm sure you guys get totally sick of me harping on like things in my color palette, but it is such an important part of making that I don't want to spend a ton of time and then have it in my wardrobe and never grab it. And I might never grab it because of the color. I mean, that's a significant reason. It could be the fit, it could be the yarn, it could be, you know, there's a lot of reasons why you might not grab something. And I'm not in the business of making a bunch of stuff I don't want to wear. So I think it is important to discuss that, like, you know, as much as if you don't buy into color theory, fine, whatever color you like. I definitely, in our knit group, Charlotte is like the one that's just like, I think I look good in all colors. And I was like, Charlotte, yes. She won't wear blue because she doesn't like blue, but I'm like, yes, that, then if you don't have an issue with it, then great, perfect. For me, something like this, if I had a bunch of this in my wardrobe, I bet I would not wear my hand knits as much. This one I will grab because I feel a little sentimental towards it. Plus it's so different than anything else I have. I do have a couple of striped things, but like this type of striping I don't have. And I think it's kind of fun and exciting and definitely something I will grab because it's different. Now, if I made a cool version of this, like that might trump this one for a lot of wear, but I like to cycle through, especially the new things, and I like to cycle through, like, I do kind of intentionally pick because I haven't worn something in a while. You know, I don't just go with my favorites over and over and over again, week over week, partly because I think I have my yarn tracker in so I can see like, oh, I haven't worn that in a while, let me grab that one tomorrow. Sometimes it's the vibe of the day, like it really depends, but anyway. Those are my thoughts on that. Okay, so let's talk about the sizing on this. This is a size 4, it's 46 inches. Recommended ease is 2 to 6 positive inches. I am at -1 for this. If we take my average is 47 inches, generally speaking. Part of that reason though, right, is because I talk about this a lot. I did the same size for my DRK Everyday because of the circular yoke. I wanted it to be more fitted through my upper bust, which is about 43, 44 inches. So I did not want to have like weird gaping or like a lot of extra fabric here as it was growing before I split for bust. I think sizing down helps with that. I could have added some more stitches. I actually did. So I don't have my final measurements inside of Ravelry, but this is very close to, it's like just over 46 inches. It's really like close to 0 ease for me because I did add 4 stitches at each underarm. So here's what I did for, we talked about the yarn already, but I used a 3.75 millimeter needle throughout other than the cuffs, which I think was a 3.25 for the cuffs and like, you know, all the edges. All the edges are 2x2, including the folded collar, and I think that looks really nice. I chose the folded collar because in her notes for the pattern, she said that tends to give it more structure. And I just found if you like look at the Ravelry pictures of projects made from this, there are a ton that are like like boat neck, I mean, or bigger. Like they're just huge, like people out to here, like my third circle. And I knew just like, because these are fallish colors and like when I would tend to grab it, I knew I'd want it to be a higher neckline for personal preferences. So now there's anything wrong with the wide one. If people like that and they want to like have all the neck room, then perfect. Know that you should probably select the other kind of neckline. So the modifications I made, I added some length, and I think I only added about 3/4 of an inch over recommended in the pattern. What I did was in my last stripe, which was my green here, and you can see that because it's like also my underarm stripe, right? My green, this is Legolas, I added, I think 8 stitches across the top in my last row before splitting for sleeves. I just added, like I had already done my last full increase row, so I just did similar increases with left lifted increases on just the sleeve. Like I put the markers on ahead of time where they would have split, and I just did increases between the sleeves. I mirrored them on each side, so there's a couple more stitches in the front underarm, whatever, it's fine. And then when I split for body, I added 4 extra stitches to the underarm cast on stitches for both sides. And then when I picked up, I also picked up an extra 2 stitches in the, like, you know, in this area here, like between my cast on stitches and my stitches on hold. So overall, I think I added like 16, maybe it was 14, I don't know, something like that for the math of stitches for the top of my arm, because her pattern was like, I don't know, I think for the size 4 was only like 13 inches, which is not big enough for my bicep. So I needed that extra space. And then I just did the same kind of decreases. I just did them a slightly more rapid, like maybe 1 row more rapid, and kept doing them throughout until I got to the recommended cuff number, which is literally like at the end. I think I actually did an extra rapid decrease through these 3 here, like I did every 4 rows instead of every 6 or something on both sides, to just get, and that's the smallest part of my arm is my wrist, so I figured I could do them there instead of doing them early. And I think it fits great. It is definitely fitted throughout the whole sleeve, like it fits right on my arm, and there's no space anywhere, but it's not feeling like it's negative ease anywhere or pulling, so it feels comfortable. It does make it a little bit warmer when it's really touching your skin the whole way, but I am enjoying it. Those are really the only mods that I made. I didn't make any other mods to anything. So otherwise, knit to pattern, knit short rows to pattern, and I really enjoy it. So I will say, I gave some reviews last week as far as like you could do this or the DRK every day. They're built similarly pattern wise, different increase styles. I like this pattern a lot. I thought it was easy to read. It's easy to do. I do think that some of her measurements, you just have to really kind of get to know your body a little bit while you're making this. And I think this could be your first circular yoke. Like I think there's enough information in the pattern if you really wanted a striped thing. That does lend to way more ends to weave in and, you know, other things. But I think sometimes beginner makers also are braver than experienced makers, because we were just like, ugh, I don't want to do that. But I did weave as I went most nights. Like when I finished work on it, I would just weave in the ends from that day. I did wash with all the ends existing, and then I went through and cut them after the fact, and I you know, leave a little bit of space and everything like that. And I don't like do any special method for something like this. Like you could do weave and Steven or whatever other methods there are, but I just take them and I like double knit across the back where you like go around the stitch, right, for like 3 or 4 stitches in either direction. So one goes one goes the other at each stripe. I think the stripe line looks, or like the line looks pretty good. That's also where your increases are, so you're always going to get sort of a V there. And then the back, you can see it a little bit, but I don't really care. That's my back. I'm not looking at it. So I'll get pictures in this today, hopefully, if the weather behaves this afternoon, and get them up on Ravelry with final measurements, so they should be there. Okay, let's move on to my finished object for the week. So this week I finished the Curiosity hat. This one is gonna be fun. So I'll put it on both ways for us to see it, but this is a pattern in testing for Tori Yu. And let's just talk about it. Well, I'll tell you what I did first. So I did the adult medium, and that is like for a 23-inch circumference head or something like that. I mean, there's like a range of head sizes. And so I think my final hat is supposed to be something like 18 inches inside, something like that. It's kind of hard to measure because when you lay it flat, like it definitely feels wider. When I was working on this, I was like, this thing is going to be gigantic on my head, but it does fit. And I have a big head, so I like a little more negative ease in hats sometimes just because of like, I have a lot of hair and stuff. So I decided, and we talked about this last week, I think I was like, maybe, oh gosh, here's where I started. This is my provisional cast on here. So I was maybe to here, right? And I really thought it was going to take me like 2 or 3 weeks, but I just flew through this. The pattern, this is a broken seed stitch on this side, was just really easy to get through. And I was a little nervous about yarn. I'm glad that I was nervous about yarn because I really ended with like 3 or 4 yards left. And that always makes me knit a little bit faster because I just want to know, am I going to be in a pickle or is it going to be fine? One thing to note here is I did do sort of like an intarsia, and I didn't need to, I guess, line. So this really does have like a back and a front because of how I did the color swap, because you do 1 row each in the broken seed stitch. I will say, I will likely never wear this side out, and I was going to put this in like the giveaway pile, but I actually kind of really like it. This is a hand spun for me, so the color changing yarn is a hand spun. It is a Polworth from Into the World called, the label I had is called Godric's Hollow. They have since taken away, like, I think the Harry Potter specific naming things. Now it's just called the Hollow, but this color is available if you're interested in it on their website. And I did a 3-ply. It is a true sport weight yarn, but by wraps per inch, but my grist is kind of high, so I only had like 270 yards for 117 grams. So let's talk about construction really fast. So I cast on, I'm just gonna show you the whole thing. So I cast on here with a provisional cast on that I used waste yarn for. You can also use a barber cord, and I knit all the exact same way up here, and then you do a 4-pointed decrease, and it sort of does the swirl because you're doing only the decreases on one side. This is what it looks like. I will say the pictures that Tori will probably post, and I don't know if she's making another one with us, is that she did the hand spun or the color changing as the background yarn, and so that's the one that it's like yarn A. So it's the one you'd be able to see the most of, because in the broken seed stitch, it's the row that you just knit. And so the more background yarn, you knit and purl the next row and you alternate that, right? But that means that it pulls forward your knits and purls in your color changing yarn. So you kind of get that honeycomb effect in whatever your yarn A is. The yarn A is also what you then pick up after your provisional cast on, and you just knit, and then you have slightly different decreases. You can see these are more like that has the, like a 2 stitches in between the decreases. So that does look different. It's hard to tell in the pattern, but like it looks different than this one. I don't know why, but I just feel like this looks enormous. And whenever I see people who make muscle bras, I also, because I've never made one, I also think to myself, oh my gosh, that looks enormous. Like, whose head is that going to fit? Here's a magic trick. Because it's a double layer, you're going to lose, you'll lose your mind. You're just like, wait, how did that work? So you can do this either direction, right? But you take one end and you shove it inside the other. I'll do it this way because that's the way I'm going to wear it most likely. And when you do half and half, you just grab and pinch both ends. You'll see here that because I knit more in that broken seed stitch, I have more of it visible there. You can just fold along that line, and that's a pretty good fit. You could fold it less, you could fold it more, it doesn't really matter. That fold line though sort of helps. Okay, this to me still looks like a big hat, but it just doesn't have quite as much like negative ease look as something like the Manhattan hat does. But I don't know what, it's so cute. To me, like, because of how much I folded it, it doesn't have any, you know, pop up. You can make them slouchier. You could also just, let me do it, do a lot less brim and give yourself some like extra poof on top. That's not the look I like. I definitely prefer this style of hat to be super fitted on my head. And also when I do it this way, you see very little yellow. You can just see it on my crown. That is the way that I would wear it. It's the way I've been wearing it on dog walks, which I've worn a couple times this week. If I flip it out the other way, whoop, you just flip inside or outside. Okay, so this way, you fold the brim again, and if you do that same amount of fold, you'll see that you're right at your provisional cast on line. So it gives you a really nice line to hold this. And then I can look for the back line, yeah. And then you can just flap it back on, and it looks like that same kind of fit. It's just that now it has like a totally different color. So because Tori also used her main color was a Shanico Sport from Yarn Jam, but it's a tonal. Like her, when she flips it the other way, it looks like a tonal, right? With just a little bit of the color change. And I just did the other way, which she said she wanted like a couple of testers if they could, or if they had enough yarn to try it the other way. I would definitely like it both ways, I think. Obviously, this yellow is not my color, so I'm probably not going to wear this particular hat this way, but I would do it again and just do the opposite if I had like less hand spun, because it was like 165 yards I used of the yarn B and like 100 or 265 of the yarn A. So you could get away with a fingering or sport weight single skein, and then whatever hand spun you had, even if it was like only half of a skein maybe, or a little bit more than that. So who knows? Maybe I'll make another one. I really liked it. I did have to go down needle size. I went down to a 2.75 instead of the recommended, I think was 3.25. I think I went down 2 because I just couldn't get gauge. My yarn was a little stiffer. But I got gauge then, or very close to it. I think I'm still 1 stitch wider, but like it fits really nice, so I'm not mad about it. Yeah. Here it is. What do you think? Is this a good style hat on me? I'm not even sure, but I'm just going to do it anyway. I did have Mike try this on because I know like a lot of people make muscle burrows and stuff for men. And it's like similar fold style and kind of look to like an Oslo hat or something like that too. And Mike tried it on. He was like, this looks very like feminine on me. And I was like, you're right. And I don't know what it is about it. I don't know if it's the stitch pattern. It's definitely not the color. I mean, it's like when you try it on this way, it's just mostly gray. It does look weird on him. And maybe because he has kind of a large head, and I don't know. Might have been too much fold on the brim or something, but not for my husband. These will just be for me. And maybe Theo would like something like this in the future too. She is not much of a hat kid right now. She'll keep it on sometimes. But you know, fun fact I figured out last week is she took my Manhattan hat worsted, which I made her a matching one at some point in her life when she was much smaller. It fits her now, but has like absolutely no top to it. But she took mine the other day and she was trying to wear it, and I double folded the brim, which I made it only a single fold brim, but I double folded it for her. And then it didn't have really any, you know, top part, but it fit her great. And I was like, I could just make her an adult size, and then I don't ever have to make her another one because it'll just grow with her and she'll just have less of a fold eventually. Here we go. This is a thing that I probably will do for some extra yarn usage later this year, as she needs more hats going into the fall. So here we are. That is my finished object for the week. My notes are in, everything's in for that one. So I am glad for that test to be done. My notes were not due until the 23rd, and I think she's going to release it like that weekend. There's plenty of testers in the test group. I think a lot of us are done already, so everybody's like getting their notes in and everything, which is really nice. And I thought it was like, I thought it would take me a lot longer to make, but I had a lot of fun making that one. I thought the broken seed stitch is fun to do because I was worried about the yarn. That definitely helped move me along a lot. But I had a good time, getting that one. And I think I also want to see how the yarn would look like, just like where the color changes were going to be, because that's a really slow color change. Like you can just see throughout the whole hat. If we go like this again, I mean, I only have really, because I went from here, which there was a tiny bit of yellow to start, all the way through. I don't have any like, you know, dark yellow until the very crown. And then that dark yellow continues here really and goes back to just a tiny bit of yellow at the end again. So like that was a pretty crazy, crazy braid. And this is one of my first color changing braids I did. So I didn't, you know, have a lot of information for myself before, while I was spinning it. If I did this like particular thing again, and if I wanted it to move faster, even doing a chain ply, I probably would have just split the color more often, you know, while I was doing my singles. Let's go on to WIPs. So I have two big updates. No, I have three updates to tell you, and then I've got two new cast-ons. So let's go first with my Traveler hoodie. Traveler hoodie got a lot of, you saw last week, that was like my first week for it to be back on the needles really. And I definitely made a ton of progress just working through the body. And I said I needed a couple more stripes or, you know, like little garter bumps before I split for sleeves. So I did split for sleeves. This is about how much, slightly under this, because I've done a couple of the back now. I'm working on the back now. This is you know, to here-ish, I added, I think 3 or 2.5 before I split. And then I did all of the front. So this is the front right and the front left and the neckline. And then the back is on the needles, and I, since splitting for sleeves, maybe have done 2 or 3, two full repeats. What I will say is I got this tip from Sylvan, and it does create a little bit of a hole here, so I do have to sew that, but that's about it. The way that Andrea creates extra drop on these, and she has several patterns that do this, is she does them from bottom up. She'll cast on some stitches on like the front or the back, whichever you do first, and then you just cast on again for the other side. And then you sew them to pick up for sleeves. And so you'd have to start sewing by the armpit, which is this little hole here, sew across and then pick up. And I feel like that's a little bit fiddly. And when I talked to Sylvan about this, she was like, she gave this suggestion to like everybody in our yarn group, like just pick up and knit those. And so when you get to do your armhole, like it's already a completed circle. I will have to use some yarn to go back, like what my, I'll use my tail from picking up sleeves to go back and just like sew this hole down a little bit. Because it does create like a pretty decent hole, but like that's not a big deal to fix. Like that's pretty easy to go sew up and then back so I get, you know, keep it secure. And I think it's pretty noticeable on both sides, but one of the sides I have extra tail too, so that's like fine. But then I don't have to worry about it flapping around, and honestly, that can be a bit of a deterrent because picking up stitches is already annoying, but to have to like leave extra tail to, like, you really have to sew first, so you have to like sew it and either have 2 extra tails there, or you use kind of a long tail to sew it down and then pick up with like that, the rest as you're working yarn, which is what I did for the tessellated. And that's not a big deal either. I think either way, it's not a huge deal. It just like picking up sleeve stitches is already annoying. So you don't need any more barriers to entry. So yeah, I thought that this was a smart tip from Sylvan, and it looks nice too. So anyway, I am on the back. I will proceed to hopefully finish the back this week. Like, again, I don't have a deadline for this until August. Like, that's when we're going to get together and take pictures. But I do think I want to have this for like a bunch of the spring, not only because it's like such a fun and exciting color, but because I just genuinely think that it'll be really fun to wear. And it's my first hoodie, but hopefully not my last this year. I would like to also make the no sweatshirt. So here it is. I am super enjoying the make more than I thought I would, but I did put it down after I mean, splitting for sleeves, that was like a lot to do the front. I did most of that this weekend. And then I sort of put this down for the bulk of this week and did other things. As a reminder, really quick, some details on that. That is a size 4, but it's a 50-inch bust, so it's more ease, though this whole pattern recommends 6 to 10 inches of ease. I think I must be off on gauge a little bit, which I did not gauge swatch, so don't come at me. I didn't feel the need to, because I knew if it was a little bit bigger, I'd be okay. If it's a little bit smaller, I'd also be okay. But I do want it to be, like, I'm okay if it's a little bit wider because it's a sweatshirt, like just the sweatshirt feel. I'm using 3.75 millimeter needles for the body, and then 3.25 for the ribbing, which is where you start. And I'm using Queensland Collection Rainbow Beach in the color Boysenberry. As I said last week, and I'll show you this on the, I have an extra skein here. On the label, it just says here, like, pure, let's see if it'll, pure Australian superwash wool. And there's no more details, like what, it just says 100% wool. It doesn't tell you what kind of animal or like what kind of sheep it's from. But like I said, it's it's 328 yards per 100 grams. So it's true sport weight, but it definitely feels way more rustic than this. Like, this has the superwash feel of like slipperiness, and this has a lot of grip to it, which is perfect for this pattern. But I'm really curious to see how that like washes and wears. It'll be my first time using any yarn from Queensland Collection, so I will give you a review on that after it gets some wear. I do like working with it, and I don't mind a rustic yarn. So if you are really sensitive to that, like, maybe it's not for you, but I would say like you should feel it and then make that decision, because it's not anything like, even like a Durham Natura. It doesn't have like that same really matte rustic quality. It just is, it's somewhere between that and the superwash. So sorry for my really great analysis there. Okay, the next thing we should talk about is my Northwoods V Neck. So I'll just give you the details on this one up front so I don't forget. This is a pattern by Jessie Made, who is Jessie May on Instagram. Lots of S's in there. It's a top-down V-neck, drop shoulder thing. It's a DK weight pattern, but I did sub boucle. Sylvan did this last year for our boucle make, so we knew that we could like approximately make, you know, a similar thing. Just subbing DK for boucle is not that easy because you're gonna have real weird gauge things. Boucle does not behave like a DK yarn. It's much harder to get stitch gauge, but your row gauge tends to be denser than whatever like a regular DK is, because the stitches just don't spread out the same way. I am making a size 5, which is supposed to be 52-inch bust. Recommended ease is 6 to 8 inches on this, and so that for me is 5. I will say I'm definitely still off gauge on this, and I'm definitely going to be closer probably to like a 55 or 56-inch bust, so I'll be like on the high end of the ease, just because I tried it on last night and I have not measured, so I don't know. It's so hard to track gauge until it's really done and off the needles and washed. It's gonna be hard for me to tell you, but I tried it on last night and it's way more drop than I thought it would be. And also, but well, I tried it on when I was doing sleeves and I was like, oh gosh, this is really big. But I finished both sleeves, and we'll talk about this in a second because I'll show you. It looks great in the drop. It's just going to be definitely more ease than 52 inches, which is fine. I'm using 3.5 millimeter needles throughout for, I don't remember what I used for the V-neck, but for the cuffs I used a 3 millimeter. This is Long Dog Yarn Boucle DK in Battle of Helm's Deep, which is another of the sweater quantities I got from the one collection from Brandy at Long Dog. This is 250 yards per 100 grams. This is 100% superwash merino, and I absolutely am like gobsmacked by this color. Okay, so let's show you. And again, I don't know, this is a little bit me, and I still think I might have to go back and just tighten up my bind off, but boucle doesn't play very nicely for the bind off. So it was hard for me to judge if I was going to pull, if it was pulling too tight or not tight enough. And then at the end I was like, maybe this isn't tight enough. And that's okay. I can go back in here and just tug at some of this, and I think it's more this side right here, which is where I ended the decrease or the bind off, and just tug maybe like the last 10 stitches and get them to be a little bit tighter. But I also kind of want to wait until I might do it a little bit and then wash it and then see if I need to do more. When it's actually on, if I pull the V-neck down even just a tiny bit, it sits pretty nicely and flat. It's just that when you're looking at it now, like it definitely does like a woobly thing here. Anyway, where was I last week? I don't even have stitch markers on here because I went back and forth on these sleeves. I think this is both sleeves I cast on twice, I think. So this is where I ended up for both of them. They're both done now. So let's solve, for better or worse, let's call it like I did all of the sleeves this week, because this was the first sleeve I worked on, and I was alternating yarns and helically knitting, and I was like, oh, they're both a little bit dark. Okay, sorry if I just got darker. I had like a little lighting issue here, and had to turn one of them off. Okay, so you can really see the woobly thing. I do think it's just this side. Okay, I'm gonna go back and fix that. That's what I'm gonna do. That's gonna be a huge pain. Huge pain. So on this side, it was just feeling really dark with the two skeins I had caked up after, like I was done with the one on my body or very close to both of them, like knitting or finishing both of the ones on my body. So I cast on and did like maybe 2 inches in those two alternating, and it felt like there was none of this light color. So it looked a lot darker than I felt like the upper body did. Then I had one sort of lighter skein that I caked up, and I was like, oh, I don't need a helically knit. Let me just knit that. And it was way too much of the light stuff. Like it was every row there was like a light patch, and I was like, all right, let me just rip both of these out and try again. So I took one skein, I ripped back for both of them until the pickup, so I didn't have to do the pickup over again. I just kept that on, and then I alternated skeins on this side. I actually did the light skein first just to see if make sure I would like that still, because obviously I didn't like the alternating, just the regular other skeins. So I did light skein and then like a darker skein throughout this, and I really liked how it turned out. So I just did the same over here, although I did this other dark skein that I had already, like it was a different one that I had picked up with. All that to say, sleeves are done. Helically knitting sometimes gives you a great adventure. You're never going to get sleeves and body and variegated to look exactly the same for the most part, even though I think these are pretty short repeats of color. So it looks pretty blended in both. Once it's on my body, I don't think you're going to notice. I do have slightly darker skeins to end the entire thing with, but I'm working with that lighter skein and a darker skein now. The same as like what was on this sleeve throughout the body. And then if I need more after my lighter skein is finished, which is got slightly less yarn because I used it on both sleeves, I will have a dark and a dark. But for the bind off, and because I think it will gradually, you know, do that in the body, like I'm not going to be bothered by it. And so overall, super happy. I picked the body back up last night. And again, like I said, today I added a couple of rows during work, like maybe 6 or so. This one, even though boucle is a bit annoying, when you don't have to worry about picking up or dropping any stitches or anything like that, it's pretty easy to just use as a desk knit. I don't have to look at it, and I don't have to think about it, and I could just go. So yeah, I think the V is going to sit really nice once I fix that. And I think I like where it's sitting. It's not too deep because this is, you know, quite a wide band I added here. I mostly knit to pattern, though I think I ended a little bit early, and I did not do quite as much length on the cuff because these sleeves were feeling rather long, and I don't want the sleeves to go way past anything because I know they'll grow like a tad. So they're sitting, you know, right past my wrist now, and so they might, you know, move a little bit down my hand, but and this is not a particularly fitted cuff, but I do actually kind of like how this is sitting, like the whole thing. I did do bind off, just a knit bind off, which is what was recommended for all of the edges for this pattern. I don't know if I would do that with regular DK yarn, which I might use this pattern for regular DK yarn in the future, but yeah, anyway, I really enjoy it. So, but I'm just like gobsmacked by this color. I think it's so gorgeous. There's so many shades of blue in here, and it's just like, it's so good. Okay, so those are the 2 sweater projects I'm actively working on right now. I still have my birch, which I did add like 2 rows to, and you guys, this, I don't know. I'm not gonna rip it out. I don't think. I want to have that, but I am struggling a little bit with it. I like put it down for too long in between, and because I'm still doing the increases, I didn't make a note of where I ended in the pattern, and I actually think it was my previous knitting I had added an extra row, like I said, and then when I picked it up this week to add a couple of rows, I didn't add it. It was like, I'm having issues here. So now I have to go back. I think I have to rip out the last row I did, which is not a lot of stitches because I'm still in the increases, but it's annoying. And I just like want it to be in timeout because I don't want to look at it right now. Yeah, so that's the only one that's not actively being worked on my needles. I think I would like to finish one of these sweaters and then pick that up and like give it most of my attention for a couple of weeks, while I probably cast something new on as well. So I won't just like finish and only work on that. I'll probably finish something, maybe most likely the Northwoods V Neck, like this coming week, and then cast on my broom and give a lot of attention to the birch kind of at the same time. So get 3 in there, but the broom should go pretty quickly. And yeah, anyway, I did cast on my socks for January, and this is Cutie. It's a cutie little sock. It looks really small, but it's just a stitch pattern. I am using one of the patterns from Summer Lee's sock project book. This is just a cuff down, heel flap and gusset, one of the patterns in like that section of the book. This one is called Soma, and I am doing an adult medium for my sister-in-law Lauren. I do have her foot measurements, and that's like where she sits, so it's like 64 stitches, and I'm doing a 2.25 millimeter needle. I should probably like measure it to make sure I'm approximately on for gauge, because sometimes I find my sock knitting is a little looser than what is best. I don't want to go down another size needle, so like I could also just take a couple stitches out of the foot if I felt like. I would be more worried about the foot than the ankle fit. And the colors I'm using this is Woolberry Sunrise, and I don't know that this mini had anything, but this is in the Sunrise set. Like I don't know if this one has a name that's different, but this is a sock set that I had. This is the one that she picked out. It's really like a very pale icy blue with a little bit of pink bits in it, so I thought that was like a nice January color. This is what January Sunrise would look like, I would think. Anywho, I will continue knitting this. There's not really much to share on it this week. I just got to figure out how I am gauge wise. I wouldn't mind if I had to like restart. It's probably not a big deal. It didn't take me very long to do that. Mostly just I cast on during knit night, did a little bit, and then I needed to focus on it a little bit more. I was gonna just do stripes inside of the cuff, but because of the stitch pattern, that was gonna be a little bit hard. So I started with the contrast color just as the first repeat of the pattern. Then I moved into the main color, which is what I would do. I would still do the heel and maybe the toe in the contrasting color. I'll do the heel first, then weigh again and see how I am. If I feel like I could do the toe, then I will. And that'll use most of that mini, which is good, if not all of it. And a good deal of the main skein, though I'm betting I'm going to have like 40 or 50 grams left. 40 grams probably left over, if not a little bit more. So there's that sock project. My January socks, and I'm feeling meh a little bit about that pattern, but it sucks and I can get through it and it's fine. If I though find that I'm really off on gauge, I probably would not cast on with that pattern again. I'll just pick something different, and give myself like a fresh palette cleanser. I don't need my socks to feel arduous throughout this year because I have so many to get started. So I want to start with something strong, but I have this one cast on and I really think it's cute and it's a very good pattern for her. It's just, if I'm having like gauge issues, I will just pick something else, and that is okay. That's my choice. Because she didn't pick, none of the socks that I'm doing this year, they picked yarns, but not the socks. And I told most of them that they'd probably have a mostly ribbed sock because that's like easiest for me to get them to fit close-ish. And since none of them have socks for me before, none of them have a very big opinion on if they want it tighter or looser. So they're going to get what they're going to get, and then we'll go from there for any future endeavors. Okay, so the next thing, I told you guys that I was casting on a baby blanket. So let's talk about this. I made this baby blanket chart 6 or 7 years ago, 7 years ago now. This is a corner to corner crochet chart that I made from a picture I found on Pinterest. I can't find the artist's name. It's just like it's like a, if you guys know what like chibis are, like an anime baby version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I like tried to look for artist credit, but I can't find it. You can reverse look up an image and it still just points me to this Pinterest page. Doesn't have any artist signature or anything like that. Anyway, and I can't find like there's no link to the actual photo. It's just in Pinterest. So it's really cute. It's like a cute little like baby Ninja Turtles. So because I'm not selling this or anything, I also don't feel really bad about not finding the artist credit. I'm telling you guys, it's somewhere. If someone can find it for me, I'll give them credits, whatever. But it's just like a little artist rendering of baby Ninja Turtles. So I took that and I made it into a corner to corner chart on Stitch Fiddle. And you can just like upload an image and then tell Stitch Fiddle like approximately how, you know, many boxes wide by how many. And then I fiddled around with colors to make like the outlines to the turtles and stuff. So I have a chart I'm working off of. That's what you need to know. This chart is 57 rows by like, or maybe 53 by 57. It's not super big. It's not going to be a super big baby blanket. I might do a border on this one, though I'm not sure. Anyway, I made this 7 years ago because I made this blanket once. Here is a picture of the full blanket so that you guys can get, I haven't shown you any pictures of this yet, and I won't put up the Stitch Fiddle chart or anything right now, but here is the baby blanket. It had a light blue background and it was very cute. And I made this on the request of my friend Kevin, who did actually pay me for some of the supplies and stuff. And this was for his best friend. And Kevin is a really dear friend of mine. I've known him for a long time now. And he is having baby number 2. Actually, his baby number 1 is the one that I made the puff stitch flower blanket for, which I'll pop up here for just a second. I made this for his daughter. She was born just before Theo, and it was a for real labor of love. So as many ends as there is to weave in on this corner to corner, which is one of the first corner to corner charts I made and is total chaos in row, in like how many, like how your colors carry. So I had no regard for how many ends this was going to create. And I wasn't going to switch it because he asked for the same blanket for his second kid. So his best friend's kid has this, and now his second kid who's coming along sometime early March. So I want to get this done in the next month or so. But here's where I have done so far. Who knows all the Ninja Turtles? I know their names, but I don't know all of their colors. I think that orange is Raphael. I know red is Michelangelo, and I know purple is Donatello. So Leonardo is probably blue. So I think that Raphael is orange. So here it is. It's so stinking cute. Oh, it's so cute live. I hope that you squealed over the picture too of the first one I did because it's so cute. So Kevin requested he did request a gray background on the behest. I think that was the one decision he let his wife make. And I was like, great. So yes, it's super cute. I am nearly done. I think the next row starts the second turtle, just the leg of the second turtle. And then I've got a little bit of face to do. And as I go up here, I did start like the sword from, who's above him? Maybe Leonardo has a sword. Anyway, this is like the butt of the sword for one of them too. So there are just so many ends that happen in this. This is the, other side. I don't know that, like, I read the chart this way. So that's how I'm working it. But you could do a corner to corner from the other corner if you wanted. Doesn't really make a difference. So this is the other side. Yeah. And so it's cute. Isn't it a little bit crazy? I have a lot of ends connected. I have most of my ends managed, and they're not too tangly below this. I can't like really lift it because a lot of them are connected to right now just a bowl, but I might move them to this bag I got for Christmas, which my mother-in-law gave me. This really crazy bog bag, which is like you can use as like a summer tote for things, but also a lot of people use it for knitting and crochet because there's holes that you can stick your yarn through for yarn management. What I think I like about it is it's got rigid sides, so these little clippies can just get clipped along the edge, which also helps spread them out. So then when I untangle at the end of the row, it's not so bad. I typically untangle at the end of every row or every second row because no matter what, just the way that flipping yarns and things and not catching all of them, they get tangly. But I have them on these. I just wind off a good amount, not for every color. Some of them are attached to balls too. But I wind them off onto these little clip. They're like chip clip bobbin. Like, this is the bobbins that I've used. They're like chip clips, and I got these at like the dollar store when I made my first ones, because I was doing this on like those bobbins you can wind onto that are like plastic, but they don't clip to anything. And they were just clattering around and also making a lot of chaos. Because I can keep these stationary, even if they get a little bit tangled, I just take them and like unknot the couple of times where they're crossed. It's just a lot easier to then clip them back on so that I'm not worried about them like moving around again. So that's where we are. You'll see progress. I intend to finish this in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I have been giving a good amount of time to this. The beginning goes super fast, even with all the ends. All the ends are woven in, other than, where I am right now. I think there's maybe 1 or 2. No, I don't think there's even any starts right now that are not woven in. So everything, doing the same kind of thing. When I put this down, I try to, like for the day or evening, I try to put this, just weave in what I can in 10 minutes and go from there. So that keeps it a lot cleaner and easier. And also just like hand wise, it's easier to weave in ends close to where you are. Otherwise you're like picking to the middle of the blanket. And that was, I've done it that way. Mistake. Doing it this way, a lot better. And just less frustrating. It's like much nicer to have those done. So like every time I stop, I feel like good about that. Anyway, so here's a little pixelated Baby Ninja Turtles blankets. I'll try to finish in the next 3 weeks. The hardest part is like what I'm coming up to right now. Just getting past so I have, because this is not a complete square, stop increasing on the bottom edge and I'll keep increasing above. And then I start decreasing the bottom edge. And then after that, I start decreasing the top. And once you get past, like when both sides start decreasing, this is where you feel again, like it's golden, but it does feel like it's quite a lot to get through a row. Maybe because I've done a lot of garments or things that have a lot more stitches since I made a corner to corner, this really doesn't feel quite as arduous as the last time I made a corner to corner, which I think I also made a bigger one than this last time. It was like an underwater scene that I just used my own imagination for, like making sharks and some coral and starfish and stuff for a friend. And that one ended up really good, but I think that one also was bigger and was just like a lot. This one I think will go pretty fast. I'll be very happy to give it to him pre-baby, hopefully. So we're going to like plan a meetup in February. So I would like it to be done. I am using a 5mm needle on that. And I just went with something that I felt like wouldn't condense the stitches too much. I don't remember what I used last time. Maybe it feels similar to the last one, like both in size and like the density of stitches from my very long ago memory. So we're going to say that it'll be about the same dimensions, and I will just continue on that way. If it feels too small when I finish, I might do a border with one of the colors, or maybe all of their like bandana colors, or or like their little mask colors or something. We'll see. I am going to play Yarn Chicken a little bit with this, undoubtedly. The main color, I think I'll be okay, but it's all like Red Heart or Big Twist or just whatever I have in stash. Everything right now is from stash. So if I need to get anything, it would be the main color, and I would, or really the turtle color. I would maybe run out and have to go get some of that. But since they're Red Heart colors, I'm not really concerned, because they'll look close enough, even if they're slightly different. So those are my 2 cast-ons for the week. Like I said, we'll figure out if I'm okay with the socks, and if not, I'll just recast them on. But I do need to like not take a big pause on those, because I would like to get January done in January, if possible. Let's talk about spinning updates. My only spinning update this week is that I finished braids 1 and 2. I think I finished both of them. I think I finished 1. This is 1. No, this one is 1. I think I finished 1 before the weekend, and then I finished this one yesterday. I do feel like my 2 is slightly thinner than my 1, but that's also okay. I am going to split the 3rd skein or the 3rd braid and just get that started also, like maybe today, so I can keep this going similarly. This bobbin still has to rest another couple of hours, but I think maybe at the end of my day, or maybe when I edit tonight, I will just go through and rewind these 2 bobbins, not ply them, but get them ready to ply. And before I ply, because I want to make sure I keep like very similar density, I will start the 3rd braid. So maybe I'll just get these ready. And then I can also reuse, these are the shocked bobbins that came with my ladybug, and the other ones I have are plastic, and they're okay, but I prefer to spin on these, and I can ply from those. So when I rewind, I'll rewind onto one of the plastic ones, and then I'll use these 2 maybe as the split for my 3rd braid, which I will split in 1 and 2 fractal, so it'll theoretically move a little bit faster. But I will say that the color changes in this are pretty fluid, because some of the areas had blue and purple next to each other. So it's every braid you get it's gonna be a little bit of a different experience. And so overall, this will color change a little bit, and I think that's okay for what I want for my pressed flowers. I don't necessarily need it to be like distinct rows of colors, right? Or like really different kind of dyed in the wool type changes. I'm okay with like a more fluidy, like this is just a different color than the dark main color. Okay. So that's my spinning update. And as a reminder, that is Cormo, which I have loved spinning. Maya reminded me, because we were talking about it, and I think she said she hasn't spun Cormo, but Cormo is a Corriedale Merino blend. So it does have a lot of those, it does have a lot of Merino properties. To me, it feels much more like Merino, but it's a little bit flatter, like how Rambouillet is. And I guess Corriedale is kind of like that, but in my mind, the Corriedale that I spun was like, this has like the crimp of the Merino and like the fluffiness, and Corriedale was less floofy feeling. Maybe still that matte quality, but either way, this blend is so nice. Like that's the breed of sheep, is Merino and Corriedale bred together. I really like it. I think it's a very excellent spin. It does feel very like Shanico or Rambouillet-y in the way that it spins. I have not been pre-drafting much. It's just been going, and it's been really nice. And this is called Daydream, and this is from Bramble Ridge, and they're like a Canadian dyer. So again, that's, I'll get you an update, and then, we'll see. I'll probably let those braids rest for a little while too, once they're plied, before I actually cast on. But like, maybe I'll cast on this year. Amongst all my many other plans, I did go through a rough draft of some of where I might want knit projects to go this year, and I'll keep you, I'll keep you in the know as I decide like what's going to be next, or what'll be the next after this. Right now, because I have a lot of things I want to finish, and I want to finish at least a couple of them in the first quarter, I only know that I have plans for the broom, which I will cast on this coming week, hopefully. And then I will decide on the sweater right after that next week. And so then it'll probably be 2 weeks or so before I cast that on. So we'll stay informed over here. So let's talk about acquisitions. The first acquisition I have from this week, I was asked by Taylor Harris, who's Taylor Ann Harris, like designs or whatever, who works with Woolfolk for pattern creation. She asked me to preview knit again, although this is kind of different. So I am not really testing the pattern. I'm just preview knitting along with some of the knitters that are going to make this for the cowl. And I don't even have the pattern yet, so I can't cast on early, but they're going to do a cowl in February, I think. And I got my yarn already, and I think they're teasing this maybe already now anyway. But I'm just going to be participating in the cowl essentially, but I got some free yarn, and I think do have to still give some pattern notes in. And if I find any discrepancies, I'm supposed to give them early to Taylor. So I'll definitely read through the pattern once I first get it to see if numbers and stuff make sense to me. But I did the Verna for her last year. This is a very different pattern. This is like an open, kind of more jackety type look. And I will flash up pictures and stuff once I can confirm that I know I can do it, but it's just essentially like an open jacket. It's a their fleet bulky held single. And so I got color FB 16, which I think is called Seafoam maybe, but it's like a really dark color. Like I would think this is like a oceany color. like a Pacific. It's a really pretty like bluey gray, a little bit of green in there. Tealy gray. And this is 131 yards for 100 grams. So it's a bulky, and it is 100% Ovis 21 Ultimate Merino wool. So it's a bulky wool boucle, which is not different than the boucle that I have necessarily. It's just that it's like thicker, that the loops and bloops and even the string itself is a little bit thicker. I was actually reading, we were at Maya's for knit night this week, and we went on Saturday, and she's got a bunch of really fun like woolly books, and I was looking through some of them, which she brought up when we did our spin class, but I didn't get any of them. But one of them is one that I think I would get, because it's more like how to spin other than regular yarns, like just all the other types of yarns you can spin, which is interesting. But I'm not interested in a lot of the art yarns. But one of the things is like a whole section on how to spin boucle, and I didn't really think about how you can hand spin boucle. It's wild. The methodology. But one of the things they typically tell you to do is you get like a lace weight wool or silk as your main cord, and boucle is just sort of like less spun, looped around, you know, kind of consistent amount of thread, but you're like looping it around and letting it spin in, but keeping it like, so it's making little bloops, right? And the DK boucles, I think, are on a single cord, and it's superwash merino, so it must be like a lace superwash merino cord. And this is, I don't know, I guess it's not superwash. I would say this is non-superwash version, but it's also 2 strands of that lace weight cord, so it feels a little thicker, the cord, and the actual boucle loops are thicker. So it's super soft, like most boucle, though I would say this is definitely like a magnitude softer than this one. And I think this one is nice and soft for wear. So this is like really indulgent soft. Yeah, so I was gifted this yarn enough to complete my size that I selected. And more details on that, I'm not going to cast it on until we're in the group knit. And I mean, that is going to be a thing I cast on relatively soon, but I'm sort of waiting on the deadlines and all the timing for that. Okay. The second thing I got in the mail this week is yarn that I bought not that long ago from Lobby and Amy, and I did buy it directly from Lobby and Amy because I couldn't find this base in this color from anywhere in the US that stocks her. But this is a color that one of my good friends, she picked out as the baby blanket color she would like for her daughter, and her daughter's already here, but I did not make her baby blanket yet. And so we chose this color, and she sent me a pattern she likes. She is a crafter, but she's also got like a really busy job, and she's a mom to a very new baby, so she's not gonna make her a blanket right now, and that is cool. So I am gonna do it, and this is in her merino DK base, so this is not like a super special base or anything. You can get it here, just I couldn't get this color. It's 252 yards for 115 grams, and it's 100% superwash merino. I wanted the superwash for the baby blanket. So this colorway is called gyopta, which is a Korean word for cute. If you don't know this, Amy, who is the founder of Lobby and Amy, I think she's half Korean, but so am I. So that's kind of fun. And Mimi she just picked this yarn because I gave her a couple of choices, and she told me she wanted like a soft sherbet with speckles. And yeah, this yarn delivers on that. It's not as much of the orangey look, though there is some orange inside of the variegated. It's mostly got just like the like minty color and pink. And some really fun speckles, and partly because this one also, the picture I sent her came with a swatch picture, and she was like, okay, I can envision what that looks like, so that's what I want. And I was like, that's hilarious. But so I have the pattern picked out for this, and I will probably cast this one on as soon as I finish the other one, which is why I'd also like to finish that one pretty quickly. I might cast it on before that, because honestly this is gonna be a really enjoyable knit. It's not gonna be super large. I got enough for like the second size, I think, in the pattern, but essentially it's just like a small square pattern. And yeah, anyway, I will show it to you and tell you all the details once I actually cast it on. But that's for a baby blanket, and that one is going to go out this year, etc. So, you know, I am trying to, you know, knit from stash more this year, but projects that are, you know, especially baby blankets, and when a mom has a special wish, because she's been a friend of mine forever, so she knows that I did this a lot more before, and it was before I had a big stash and everything, that I will, like, I want to pick the things that a parent might like, or will match nursery or their vibe or whatever, because I want it to be used. So I've got at least one other baby blanket on the horizon for another friend too. So, you know, I think honestly, I haven't gotten through very many years without making 3 or so baby blankets for friends. And I do not have to do that. I understand. This is not in any way being like, I have to make, just, I have a lot of friends. Mike has a lot of cousins. We've got siblings that are procreating. And so, it's a thing that I love to do. So yeah. Anyway, I'm really excited for that one. Now that the yarn is here, it's just, it's so cute. Shipping was really fast on that. I just was a little bit slow to order. Okay, I finished 6 books this week, and I would like to talk about them. So the first that I finished was the 4th of the Saint of Steel books. It's the last one that's out. I still think that there would be more in this series, but I don't actually know. And it is called Paladin's Faith. This one was maybe my favorite of all of them. I really liked all of these series. I thought the characters were all pretty different from each other, even though like the Paladins kind of have like a very similar like angsty vibe, which is explained, and you know, like, yeah, it makes sense. But the women are all pretty different. The issues all super different. They're not the same at all. And I think that was like, yeah, it's super interesting. So this one though is about Marguerite, who we meet in the first book, and then she's not really in them until maybe a little bit in the third. But she is the spy, essentially, and she is assigned Shane as her paladin, plus another one who is also. It's why I still think there's going to be the other ones, because she sets up for at least the next 2 even. She sets up there's 2 paladin females. And we don't hear a ton about them before this book, but then they both make more of an appearance in this book. Anyway, and there's like an unsolved mystery with the god and stuff. So there's more stuff I think would be coming, and I would be really interested to read the rest of them. But this one, the Shane is maybe the angstiest. I don't even know. They're all so angsty in their own ways, but they get tripped up into a scheme from a demon scheme, and there's just like a lot of stuff going on in this one, and it's so good. There's some spy stuff going on. There's this demon thing that happens incidentally outside of like what is the original plot, and like it's just so good. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was overall, like, yeah, probably my favorite of them, though that is hard to say because I really think that they're all distinct enough that they are all a good read. Okay, the second book I read was All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. She's been on my list for a while. I hear that she writes some pretty good steamy athlete romances, but this one was like what was available for me to read and or listen to, and this one is really interesting. So this is about a I don't want to give too much away in like the plots of the things, but basically a woman who, it goes back to her roots, like to where she grew up, that she hasn't been back since like tragedy struck her, and she is recovering from a heartbreak. Okay. And it's a small town in Colorado where she goes back to, and she meets a broody guy who has a kid who's like a teenager, and she ends up renting a room from them, and there's a lot of like angsty feelings and other things. What I really love about this is that these two people are firmly grown-ups. A lot of the ways they deal with things are grown-up like. A lot of their communication issues and other things are still pretty grown up. There's not like just dumb stuff that happens. I mean, I think she makes some kind of questionable decisions at some points, but she's kind of going through like grief and heartbreak, and like there's just a lot of things like you're like, okay, I can excuse some of that. She's not just like a dumb female, and he is not just like an infallibly good guy. He is a really good guy, but he's also got some baggage, and yeah, it's just, I loved it actually so much. I thought this was a great romance read. This is pretty spicy, but there's a lot of buildup. It's like more of a slow burn spice. There's definitely some spice in it, but it's not like everything. And I will say that because some other things I read this week were more like that. So I read 2 Lana Ferguson books this week. I read The Game Changer, which is a hockey player romance. It's a standalone. She has like 4, I mean, maybe she has more than this, but there's 4 books from the library that I can get from her on audiobook. So I have her 2 paranormal romances, which I expect to be just as steamy, on hold because they're not available right now. But I read these 2 because they were so good. So The Game Changer is about Ian Chase, who's a hockey player, and he comes back to play for his like hometown, which is the Bruins, though I think in the book they call them the Druids or something like that, whatever. It's a Boston hockey team, and like as a pro. And then the girl is his best friend's little sister, who is also a baker, and she's got, they get together as like a PR scheme because, or like they pretend to get together at first, because she needs better ratings for her like kind of local access baking show, and he needs just better PR because of other things that have happened with him. And of course she's always been harboring a secret crush on him, and he finally sees her as a grown-up, and like lots of steaminess, so much. There's some good angst in there too to set it up, but it's a lot of open door scenes. So if that's a thing for you, then go for it. I thought it was like, I mean, definitely not the best character development, definitely not, you know, like this was a purely fun, steamy kind of beach ready type read. Same with The Nanny, though I think that The Nanny dealt with a lot. This is the second book I read by her this week. The Nanny deals with more, maybe heavier topics, like a little bit, some of them. And also this is a pretty, I don't know if this story is for everybody. So this is about Cassie, who at one point in time had an OnlyFans page. So if you know what that is, you know what that is. I'm not going to explain it here on the podcast, but anyway, she has an OnlyFans site, and she's got a follower who she feels very connected to. And then something happens, which we don't know about to start with, so I won't say. She shuts down her site, and she is at school, and then she basically loses her job. She's going to be an occupational therapist. She loses her job, and then she needs like a new job, and she signs up to be this guy's, some guy, he's a single dad, his nanny. And but there is a secret from her past, aka that maybe comes back to bite her at some point. And so there's a lot of angst in here. This is also very steamy, and the steam happens like kind of early, though there's like, I don't know, maybe like halfway through the book. But there's a lot of it after that. So again, if that's not your thing, this is maybe not the romance for you. But I do think that the character development in here is better. The reasons for the love story are like maybe even a little bit better. Though I think that the Delilah Ian story has like, there's a lot of history there. So I kind of like that too. This one is different for sure. But I really enjoyed both of them. I ate them up. I can't wait for the paranormal ones. These were very fun to me, like steamy beach reads, which is what I felt like I needed a little bit of this week. I read also the third of the Beneath the Skin De La Vega. Is called Beneath the Skin. It's the third of the De La Vega books by Lauren Dane. It's the last I can get from the library, and I kind of have to go through her like catalog and see if, I don't know if there's any more De La Vega, or if they go into like more of the witches, and I have to find like if I can even find those from the library. Honestly, I wouldn't be super sad if I can't get this whole series, because they're okay. They're fun to read for sure, but they're maybe not like my favorite thing ever. I will say, if you're into, I think these are steamier than the Nalini Singh ones, which I think are pretty steamy books. But they're like more medium. I think the Side Changeling series is better in the overall world building and like the overarching problem that happens through all like 30 books in the series. So if that is a thing you're looking for, some shiftery type books with like other types of magic happening in the back end or whatever, then I think those are maybe better for you. But as I predicted, this one is about Gibson, who's like the next brother in line, the third brother or whatever. And he meets another cat, and she's not quite part of the pack, and there's like some family drama and other things. But I actually thought this one was like pretty good. It's just that these feel like a little, like there's a big problem happening, but I feel like they make this, that each individual book is more of that ish, just like this a singular other issue too, and less of the big world building problem. Whereas I think like Nalini Singh, she ties in her other characters more too throughout, and so like including perspectives. So personal preference. Okay, the last book I read this week was also so good. This is an Olivia Dade book. I read one of the Olivia Dade series, which I can't remember what it is, but it's like the one that has like Shipwrecked as the third one. And those are all kind of like plus size people in media, maybe is like the theme of that one. This one is about teachers. So there's 3 that I know of, and it might just be 3. And it's the same thing where it's like individual connected characters in like one universe. This one is called Teach Me. And then the series is called There's Something About Marysburg. And Marysburg is where all these teachers teach. They all teach in a high school. So this first one is about, she's a history teacher, and a new history teacher that comes to town and sort of screws her over in some of her classes, though that's like, you know, it's not his fault. She's definitely like super reserved and private, and he is quiet and shy, and it's a really sweet romance. There's some steam in this, though I don't think it's, I mean, it's not that explicit, not as explicit for sure, but I just like, I really love the way Olivia Dade writes like her romances. I think she does a lot of like emotional connection first, and like for legitimate reasons. Though she does do a lot of the instant attraction type stuff too. So I don't know. I felt like there was a lot of good coverage of their lives and other things. There's some amount of this that like, I'm not a teacher, so I can't speak to like how true any of this is for like, they talk a lot about like lesson planning, and like I if you're a teacher, this maybe would bother you, because I don't know how true any of that is. Not a teacher, never been a teacher, but like I felt convinced and I thought that it was really fun. So the next one I think is the principal, and then the third one is about the English teacher. And so I will probably read the rest of them, though I might not read them right now. I think I skipped into a fantasy series I started last night. So, but that was pretty good. So, and that was a lot of books this week, and I don't really know why. I think it was more just, I had some extra time. Mike did some golfing and some other things this week. So I was just, a lot of time, really no TV at all. So that's what I have to tell you. So actually one yarn thing I forgot to talk about in the beginning of the episode is for this, how much yarn I used. So for each of the colors, I used somewhere between 60, I think the lowest was 57, which was Samwise, 57 grams, and the highest was 71 and a quarter. Yeah. So I have for all of these about 39 is the lowest and 56 is the most. So I have about a half a skein from all of these, which I'm like, okay, what do I do with that? The color I used the most of, I think, was Mary. No. I used the most actually of Legolas, which I think is just this here and having, you know, like this in the sleeve split. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure what that means for this yarn. Like I could make an entirely other one for baby, but I'm probably not going to do that. So instead, I think I will maybe, if anybody has any like shawl ideas for sport weight yarn. I feel like I looked and there wasn't as many that I thought would play nicely with like this amount of colors, 6 colors, I don't want to use a full skein of any of them. So maybe I just need to look different parameters when I look on Ravelry, but if you have a suggestion, let me know. And I would probably want to do something where it's like pretty flexible with the colors, so I don't have to worry about like running out for any of them. I'm definitely not going to get any more yarn for it, but like a shawl might be a fun thing, or if you have other ideas, let me know. I mean, I could do a t-shirt, but again, I don't know if I need this blend, like exact blend in another garment. And oh, and I didn't talk about my cross stitch, but I decided I'm gonna talk about that maybe like every other week or once a month, because I just don't think you're gonna see tons of changes. Maybe more than once a month, but definitely no more frequent than every other week. I still am only doing about 2 hours for that, and I should really probably bump that up to like 4 hours. But I made okay progress this week, still working on that same little wreath to get that finished. So overall number of stitches in 2 hours is not a ton. So I need, and this is a complex, like I don't just get to have a big swath mostly to like fill out. There's like a lot of counting involved. It's counted cross stitch. So I really need to get it going. But yeah, so I will say though, if you were a person, which I think there was only like one person who said that they were also thinking about casting on the broom, and maybe they've already done it, but if you would like to join me knitting a broom, this one's not going to be a knit along by any means, but you can always hop over to the Discord. This week I'll put in times for us to have our January meetup, but I'll try to do that today even before this is posted, but I would be happy to just buddy knit, and I can always make a separate channel just within that, or you can find me on Instagram if you want to just buddy knit with me. Send me a message and we can just have a little chat about the broom, how it's progressing, send pictures to each other, etc. Obviously, I'll be talking about it here on the channel, but I'd love to see if you're making. I want to be part of your process, so please send those to me. And remember, you can become my friend on Ravelry. I do an often Ravelry stock because you can see all of your friends, like different things like cast-ons or newly finished projects, and I like to peruse what people are doing and like what yarns you're using and other things. So yeah, I did some other project dreaming this week. I will say I'll probably show it in a couple more weeks. Maybe I'll do it like mid-February. But one of my goals, this is not a goal that I've put out there because I really would like to do it just in the next couple of weeks, so it's not like a year goal, is that I really would, well, and I want to do it when I do pre-orders too. So normally for pre-orders, I use Freeform inside of my MacBook, and I will put a picture of my inspiration photo of the thing I want to make with the yarn and how much I bought of that yarn, just so I know like when inventory comes in, I kind of have still that idea. What I want to do is have a large Freeform board, and Freeform, because it's Freeform, is like you can have just it'd be really huge. So I kind of want to make sections of like pullovers, t-shirts, you know, tank tops, cardigans, and use my current stash to fill that out. So some of it I've thought about, and some of it I have like thought about in theory, but I haven't like matched a pattern to a pattern, or matched yarn to a pattern. So for example, you know, in my picture that I have for my Make 9 of the Uptown, I would just use, and I have pictures of all of my yarn because I already have them in my stash. I would use the photo that I have of this yarn and, you know, put the picture and then the yarn picture next to it. So I'm going to try to be doing this for pretty much everything in my stash. Maybe not everything, but like I would like about, I think I'd like most of my sweater quantities to be assigned, because they really are already assigned. Like I could tell you a lot of them, but some of them maybe I've changed my mind a little bit. And so I can pinpoint most of those. And then some things like this is, I have a couple of ideas floating around, but I bought this and then I bought extra of it from the same person on D-Stash. And now I have more, so I can make a, you know, an actual long sleeve garment with it. So I need to go back to the drawing board. So that's just something like other yarn wise I'm doing. I think yarn, as most of you know, knitting or crocheting is not one hobby. You also have yarn collecting and yarn buying and pattern collecting and pattern searching and yarn and pattern matching. So it's many hobbies in one. I'll just go through, and just because sometimes I have these ideas hit me where I'm like, oh, this would be really cute for that. I don't want to forget it. So I want to put it down in my board. Some of them are matched inside of my yarn board because I've got all the patterns I own. And so I can like put that in the yarn library when they come in. So it just has like an intended project, not the finished project. But there are some patterns I don't own, and that's just like the thought I have. And so I want to grab those and have this as my idea. So again, I think by mid-February, I'd like about 80% of my sweater quantities to be matched up. And anything last year I bought with intention, which most of what I bought last year has a project already in my mind, but gathering them all together. I do think I'll kind of keep off of more of the pre-orders this year. There are some things like Allie's doing the Iceland collection for Explore Knits and Fibers, and because I bought some Iceland collection yarn at Rose City last year, I probably will abstain completely from that pre-order. I love a lot of those colors, but I got some that I wanted and I still haven't used it. I also, that's this here, actually, this one, and I have a fluff down here for another Ashling, which, so I think I'm good for that one. Little Fiber Co. has a amazing pre-order for her cookware collection, and those tonals are gorgeous, and she has some really fun new bases. That Falkland DK she has, and she also has a merino woolen spun DK, which I really want to try. But I don't have anything that I'm going to make right now from that. And while I really like a lot of those colors, like, I think I'm just gonna, I think I'll abstain. But if you need some of these really, like, there's both deep colors and some really pretty soft colors. So like overall you could make some really fun things with it. Coley is having a deep sale, 40% off of all of her in stash. If you need to know about all of these yarn things, I'm just going to tell you because I'm not going to buy yarn right now, but maybe you will. I actually do have something in my cart for Coley, but I don't know if I'll purchase it. I'm sort of sitting on it and I'll see. And then also coming out soon is Treehouse has, I think it's like her World collection, which was maybe her Advent from this year. I don't know if she's bringing all of the colors back, but at least some of them are going to be in. And same with Fiber Fox. She's actually doing, if you like that fade that I got for my Advent from December, she's doing 12 of the colors, I think. So you'll get like a slightly abbreviated of the fade, but it's still really pretty. I don't think the Day of Color is going to be available, and I'm really bummed about it. So I just have my one skein that's going to be very special. I'm going to hold on to it for a little while until I decide what to do with it. But the collection from Lauren so far, there's only been like one, I think, color revealed, or maybe two today. So pretty. It's like the prettiest green. She hits it hard with these greens and blues and purples, which are three of my favorite colors to buy, and I think she does all of them in the most excellent way. So those are collections you can like look out for. I think cookware is tomorrow. I don't know when the Explore Knits collection is going to come out, but like soonish, that pre-order. And then I also don't know for Lauren. I think it's going to be like the end of the month. So that's it for today's episode. I do love to share those Dyer highlights. I haven't talked about them in a while. It sort of depends on like what's on my mind. If you want, please let me know what you've been working on. I always love to know what you were working on while I was chatting here, and also what's on your needles otherwise. What are you excited about? For anyone, always the Discord is open for you to come and join us. We do have like more people joining, and that's really fun. And we do have other people than me call out like WIP Wednesdays and share projects they're working on. A lot of FO pictures get shared. It's not a super busy community, but there's like every week there's some chatter, and you know, we are all welcome and able to come to those little knit hours I host, which are very informal, just chat about knits. So I hope you'll join us over there, or find me on Instagram. Give me a like here. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. And thank you so much for hanging out with me. I had a great time today, and I'll chat with you very soon.